So let's look at hand waxing and de-waxing thread. So this is the wax thread. You can see already how stiff it is. If you pull it up like this, it actually stands up. If you're making a kink, like this maybe, it will just, the knot just stays. Compare this with, this is the Goldschild thread. There's no chance of it standing up if you pull it up. It's very soft and nice. It has nice colors, it has a nice feel, it's very soft. And we can compare this with the Fil Au Chinois. This is the 432, so it's comparable in thickness to the Goldschild and the Crawford is a bit thicker. And again, it has a high twist, it has this springiness to it. There's no chance it would stand up, none at all. And now let's see, if we want to start sewing with any of these, we need to work a little bit. This actually looks quite nice this time. Sometimes you can already see wax sitting in flakes between the strands. But in any case, if you want to work with a heavily waxed thread, it would be best to consolidate and even out some of the wax on the surface and potentially remove some of it. So you cut your length of thread and then you want to be really quick and pull it between your fingers so that you can feel the heat of the friction between your fingers. And you do this repeatedly, and you rotate the thread slightly and do it again. So with my left hand, I'm rotating the thread a little bit every time for a pass, and then after a while you can feel that your fingers are sticky, the thread feels a bit smoother maybe, and so this is your preparation for sewing with that thread. So let's look at sewing with a completely non-wax thread like this one. I would only, as I said before, I would only recommend the Goldschild for fairly light bindings, because it's not just not waxed, it's really not as highly twisted. And if you have a look, you can see that the little hairs are slightly standing up, which is also a result from a lower twist. And so now we want to wax this. Wax comes in either bleached or yellow, whatever you prefer. The yellow wax can yellow your thread a little bit, but it's a tiny amount. I also have beeswax in funny shapes like diamonds. They all work, of course. So what you want to achieve by hand waxing is, well, to get this stiffness and stickiness. If you look at that, and let's just turn this twice, and or maybe just it can sticky stick like that, and we want something of that for this thread. So what you do is you take one end of the thread between two fingers, place it across the beeswax, and you press your thumb onto the thread, but not so much as to try and press it in or something like that. You just want to hold it in place, and again you want to feel the heat of the friction, and this is what really does something. You want the heat of the friction to melt some of the beeswax into the thread. If you scrape off cold wax, it will just flake off later, and it will much more, the faster you are, the less you can get. Sometimes if you just scrape off wax, you get this dull haze on top of the color, and obviously, at least I usually go for brightness. So, and after I've done that, again I consolidate a little bit and move it between my fingers just like before. It feels different now. I could do with a little bit more waxing maybe. But it's already, this is one of the beautiful things about hand waxing. You can really decide yourself how much wax you want. You can feel it when you have it in your fingers. And now you can probably already see this tendency to spiral has gone, and it actually stands up very easily. And of course I can easily now make all this kind of crumble stuff, and it stays just like before. And also, if you look closely, can you see it? Is it visible? The hairy bits is gone, seems to be gone. That's really the wax encloses all these tiny hairs and presses them in, and this now just feels like a really beautiful bookbinding thread. And you can do the same with the Lin Cable, which is a lightly waxed thread, but you can see how springy it is. It's very, very highly twisted. It's very prone to building kinks, even just if you do something like that. It doesn't like that. And so when we wax this again, so the main point is that you want here friction, and if you're doing longer threads, you have to be careful that you don't whip yourself or your children who might be standing around, but you want to be really quick. And then, even though this is a wax thread, you can see how much effect that just a little bit of hand waxing has. And again, this will hold very nicely now.